Hello and welcome along once again to It'll Be Alright in the 90s, the podcast that always takes its own trophy made out of cardboard and tinfoil to any cup Manchester 10s. I'm Stu Joslin, and joining me down the line, as always, he's not the muscles from Brussels, but he is the pistol from Bristol. It's Alex Greenwood. Greenie, how you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for that new name. I'll be making sure everyone I know refers to me as that from now on. It's definitely new to me. Yeah, very flattering.
So. Well, I just thought it was time that we needed some official nicknames in the pod. Maybe next week you can return the favour.
Yeah, I'm going to make a note, see what I can come up with. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. It's an interesting topic. It's very local, bit local sort of sporting history for us, and something quite niche, but definitely something that's worthy of a podcast episode, I think. So
yeah, absolutely. This is one I've been looking forward to for a while. We've got Lee Burns, who was the captain of the Chippenham Town team that made it all the way to the FA Vase final in the 1999-2000 season. He's going to be joining us tonight to talk us through that magical cup run and a real unique time in Wiltshire football history. So really looking forward to speaking to him.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Nice haircut, by the way. I assume you went to the official barber of the pod, Will Hodgson, for that?
I did last week. Many thanks to Will for the fresh trim. It was a nice trim up, a nice shave, nice little bit of tay back on the back of the neck, hot towel as well. It really is the full package when you go down to Hepcats of Chippenham. So do get yourself down there for all your barbering needs if you're local. Yeah,
I've been meaning to get down there, but it's slightly out of my way. But I think one day soon I'll be able to get down there. Maybe as a precursor to the It'll Be Alright in the 90s summer party that is in the very early stages of planning, I know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if we can make that work, we will. And listeners, be sure to check your local newspapers for further details when they come out nearer the time. Yeah, I should say I'm trying to work through his range of available colognes. So I had Tayback last time, had High Karate the time before that. There's a whole range of great colognes he's got there. So, yeah, I'm really trying to work my way through that each visit. I can't wait for my hair to grow out again so I can go back.
Yeah, that's Hepcats Barbers, the official barbers of It'll Be Alright in the 90s.
Just say it again one more time.
Hepcats Barbershop.
There we are. Fantastic. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Talking of sponsorship, before we go any further, I should mention our sponsor this week, who is Park Stores Cost Cutter of Conway Road in Chippenham. For your best value local shopping, open 7 days a week from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. Simply quote the code ALLRIGHT90s at the counter to rent 3 VHS tapes for the price of 2 from the in-store Apollo Video Film Hire Outlet. Maximum hire time 2 nights. An extra charge may apply if tapes are returned unrewound. So many thanks to the guys at the Conway Road Cost Cutter for that. And as part of the deal, Greenie, I went up there a bit earlier on. Got myself some stones.
Oh, lovely stuff. Lovely can of stones.
It's nectar. It's bloody nectar.
England's finest brown ale, I'd say.
But it says here, it doesn't say brewed in Yorkshire. It says brewed for Yorkshire.
Oh, okay.
So it's very, very specific about the local connotations there. But
yeah, yes. That's odd, isn't it? It does feel like the wrong way around there, because it's like it's only for one specific county. But hey, it's not stopped us, has it? So I think, in fact, it is the official brown ale of the pod. I think
it is. Yeah. If it wasn't written in the ledger last week, then we should really update that. And get it down in there in its rightful place.
Yeah, I think one day soonish I will go through everything that's in the ledger just to remind the listeners and ourselves exactly what's in there. Yeah, not today, but in the future we'll do that.
Have we got any correspondence? I understand we've got an email, Alex, a lesser spotted email.
We have. Let me just grab that.
And you can hear it as well. Fantastic.
Right, so yes, we've had a lovely email from friend of the pod, Nicola here, and she says, hello and happy belated Christmas and New Year. Hope it's been a good one so far. Now, for anyone who doesn't remember, I referenced Nicola in the Christmas episode, but very briefly, because we were talking about Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas. It was during our discussion on what the best
yes I remember
Christmas number one was, and I mentioned in passing that I'd spoken to her and she'd said that she doesn't like the song. And then brother of the pod, Adam, who was a guest in that episode, said like he couldn't believe it and asked if she was just being contrarian. And she has responded to that saying, sorry I'm a bit late catching up on the pod, but in answer to your question, the question being, are you being contrarian by not liking Mariah Carey? She says, I'm shocked you think it's one of the best of all time. Of all time, she said. I've done some research, and it is, according to Chris Parsons of Yahoo News, the third best-selling Christmas song of all time, only beaten by Bing Crosby's White Christmas and Silent Night, which have certainly been helped, obviously, by the fact that they've been around for much longer, obviously.
Yeah.
So it seems that the world agrees with you, although number 5 is Mistletoe by Justin Bieber, which is wild. She sort of questions whether she really does believe that Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas is bad or not. But she says, if you really want the truth, guys, I still find it hard to move away from the internalized misogyny which made me a cool and unemotional teen. This, and me being quite contrary in nature, means that I don't even know what I really think. Maybe my whole life is just a lie. My best guess is I don't like Mariah Carey, which makes me think I don't like the song. And I've just listened to it, and it sure is catchy. So there was quite a lot of personal thought process going on there, some soul searching, some questioning of beliefs and internalized misogyny, which was very interesting. So the takeaway from that, I'd say, is that All I Want for Christmas by Mariah Carey probably is the best 90s Christmas number one, or Christmas song. I'm not sure if it was number one, but Christmas song. And Nicola is now doubting her very being and her very sense of self. So that's always what we aim for on the pod, isn't it? To make our listeners really think. And
I think it's the first existential crisis we've had on the podcast.
That's true, yeah. And who would have thought it had been prompted by that?
Well, there we are.
It's a throwaway comment.
I would also just say that maybe Yahoo News isn't the bastion of music opinion that we should be referring to for these sorts of things. No. I would imagine there's probably more worthy sources that we can check this on. But hey, I suppose, yeah, exactly. Ask Jeeves. What was that one with the dog? Lycos? You could have gone on there.
Oh, God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Alta Vista. I mean, hey, there are so many.
She does also say her favorite Christmas song of the 90s is The First Noel by NSYNC. Her favorite film is easily Miracle on 34th Street. The most 90s present that she got, or her favorite present from the 90s, was either a cassette player with a microphone. We all remember them. I can picture them.
Absolutely.
Or these sort of computer things which you could do maths and word games on, and I can kind of picture them as well, like really basic, almost like a giant calculator, I guess.
Yeah, I think I have one of those. Probably made by VTech. I would imagine. I think that was the brand that did all those.
Yeah, and also when you were talking about the push pop, I was reminded of Melody Pops, which she used to love. I don't remember Melody Pops.
No.
So it sounds similar to what you were describing with the lollipop that grinds into your teeth, but something else. And she also says she also loves Astros. So if anyone does find any, then please let her know. But we'll obviously let her know through the pod because it'll be big news if you can get hold of some Astros. So
indeed. Thank you, Nicola. Merry Christmas to you too. Glad you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for getting in touch.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I just got a couple of brief things here from a friend of the pod and then from a dad of the pod. Confusingly, considering that my father has access to my mobile number, my email address, my actual address, so he could have posted me a letter. He's put a post on the pod's Facebook page, which took me ages to figure out how to access just now. He says, "Hi Stu, it's your old man here." Yes, I know. Did we have Pitfall for the PS1 in the 90s? If we did, it was a great game. Yes, we did. And the reason we had Pitfall for the PS1, this is going back to the video games episode from a few weeks back, obviously. This was a game that he played on the Spectrum, I think, the old tape loading machine that he used to play with. It was remastered and came back out again for the PlayStation in the late 90s, I think. And we got that and had many happy hours on it. What I remember most about it is that there was a cheat. Well, not so much a cheat, but just an extra little Easter egg. If you pressed a certain combination of buttons at one of the screens, it puts you into the old Spectrum game. And you can play cool. And you can play the old Spectrum game as well as the new game on the PlayStation. So fond memories of Pitfall there. So thanks very much to Glyn for that.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Glyn.
And I've also got one from a friend of the pod, Alex Mitchell, who says about the cars of the 90s. So if you haven't heard, I chose... what's the most 90s car, I should say, of course.
Yeah.
I chose Fast Fords. Alex went for the Subaru Impreza. He says, I'm a bit biased, but I'd say the Rover 400 series. Biased as my dad had one. a 416 SI specifically, I believe. I'm not saying this was the best car of the 90s, but there just seems to be loads of them on the road in my memory. Also, with Rover ceasing to exist in 2005, it just feels 90s to me in a Wimbledon FC kind of way. And he also says, back to listening to the show, Alex just started talking about Age of Empires. Awesome game.
Nice.
So there we are, a nomination for the Rover 416 there for what's the most 90s car.
Yeah, that's a good choice. We had a 214 SLI in the family, which was obviously the hatchback version of the 400. So I fully support that. I didn't realise Rover had gone out of business so long ago. 2005, did you say that was?
Yeah, afraid so. Yeah.
Crazy.
I had a Rover 100 Ascot as my second car,
Nice.
Which was just a rebadged
Mini Metro.
Yeah, Metro Mark II, I think. Mark II Metro or Mark III Metro. I don't know, but they literally just, I think on the M plates it was still a Metro, and then when mine was an R plate and it was a 100. So it was the same car. But the glove box used to come open when you went round corners. That was the that's the main thing I remember about that.
A car made famous, I'd say, by Alan Partridge more than any other. Well, he was obviously a Rover aficionado, but
of course,
the Mini Metro especially makes me think of Partridge. Speaking of which, I think we have what's the most 90s, don't we?
We do. You've got one for me this week, is that right?
I do, yes. I don't know why I asked you like that, because it's me that's leading it this time. So I asked you what you thought the most 90s sitcom was, and what were your thoughts?
As soon as you asked me this question, my mind immediately went to one place. I assume you've picked one as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we picked the same one. I obviously hope we don't for content reasons.
Yeah, I think we might have done.
But I've gone for a sitcom that I actually have never watched. I didn't watch it at the time. I haven't watched it since. So I know very little about it. But when I think about 90s sitcoms and the sitcoms that most embody the 90s as a decade and the culture around it, I have to go for Men Behaving Badly.
Ah, okay. Yes, of course.
Yes. Broadcast, but only for 6 years, between 92 and 98. So it was actually finished by the time the 90s had finished. I thought it went on a little bit longer. And really, the only thing I knew about it was that, obviously, the classic era of the sitcom is Neil Morrissey and Martin Clunes playing the two flatmates. In the first couple of series, one of which was on ITV, Harry Enfield starred opposite Martin Clunes, and Neil Morrissey wasn't in it. Yeah, that was one of the only things I knew about it. It finished on ITV, BBC picked it up, and then it became a lot more successful.
Yeah.
As I say, I've never actually watched it myself, but I just feel like it is the quintessential 90s sitcom. And I have to refer here, while doing a little bit of research, I did find on the Wikipedia page a little entry which made me laugh. The show was criticised by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents for its portrayal of, in inverted commas, a lad's culture of boozing and irresponsibility. And I think that pretty much says it all about Men Behaving Badly, so that's my choice.
Yeah. Do you think the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents was a big fan of 999 or hated 999? Because it could have gone either way. They could have loved it for like warning people, or hated it because it like showed them so.
Let me click on their link and find out. They're a British charity that aims to save lives and prevent life-changing injuries which occur as a result of accidents. So you would think they would love 999.
Yeah.
But there's nothing here which states that they like it either way. So we'll maybe have to do some more research. Maybe I can send an email and find out.
Very good. I think your choice probably does makes a lot of sense. That sort of reminded me of 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, but I think that was maybe 2000s, and also it was like followed on from that. It's not really, you wouldn't choose that over Men Behaving Badly. My choices were, well, I was thinking 2.4 Children. I thought this is what you were going to say, 2.4 Children, just because it ran from 91 to 99, so it's kind of spans the whole decade almost perfectly. And I just remember it was like the first sitcom I really remember. I watched a little bit of it before recording this, and it's not very good, but a lot of sitcoms aren't, so that doesn't diminish it really. But I think I'm going to go for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, just because I guess it's like it can be our American choice rather than instead of Men Behaving Badly. It ran from 90 to 96, so again, it's perfectly encapsulated by the decade. And I just think the whole aesthetic was very 90s. The logo, what Will wore, and I just think the fashion and everything about it was very 90s. And it's sort of got a bit of a resurgence recently, which usually suggests that something's quite 90s, because I think the 90s is having like a real revival, isn't it, in terms of style and fashion and culture. So yeah, that was my choice. And I also found out through researching it that it's loosely based on the life of a real person. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that. No.
It's based on the life of American record executive Benny Medina, who basically had quite a tough upbringing and then ended up living with a wealthy family in Bel Air, I think, or somewhere around that posh part of LA. So there you go. It's based loosely on a real person. So yeah, I think it's going to be those two, Fresh Prince of Bel Air and Men Behaving Badly, as the most 90s sitcoms. There's another link between Fresh Prince and another classic 90s program. Do you know what it is?
I don't know. Carry on.
The guy who did the voice of Shredder was the same person that is Uncle Phil, basically. Uncle Phil did the voice of Shredder in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon.
Fantastic. Well, there you go.
There you go. That's a link.
Our guest tonight is a legend of the Southwest non-league footballing scene. Throughout a career spanning almost 4 decades, he's played for and managed some of the biggest clubs in the region, but he's best known as a skipper who led Chippenham Town out of Wembley on the biggest day in the club's history, when they made it all the way to the FA Vase final on Saturday, the 6th of May, 2000. It's a pleasure to be able to welcome onto the podcast Lee Burns. Burnsy, thanks for joining us, mate. How are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, looking forward to it. Good to see you guys, and it'd be good to reminisce from the days gone by, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm an avid listener of the pod, so that's always a good sign, isn't it? It's
already a friend of the pod. There we are.
Friend of the pod.
Brilliant.
Always a good start.
Yeah.
Well, we better start by saying that we were both at the game at Wembley that day. Greenie, where actually were you in the stadium?
A good question. I was with the rest of the Chippenham fans, obviously, but I was watching the Road to Wembley, the video that's on YouTube of the Chippenham Cup run. It made it look like the Chippenham fans were in a different place to what I remember. I thought we were at one far end, sort of to the left of the goal. But that's where I seem to remember being sat, but I'm not sure if that's where we were. I mean, Lee, do you remember where the Chippenham fans were in the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you come out the tunnel of the old Wembley, it was really surreal, actually, because it seemed half of Wembley was full and the other half was completely empty. And I guess, really, it seemed that we had more fans than, obviously, Deal had at the time. It looks like I guess, 3/4 of the fans had come up from Wiltshire, really, I guess from the halfway line, right way round to that sort of quarter of the box and stuff. So, and I know that when they sold the tickets, it sort of was around the sort of stadium, and obviously the more they sell, the bigger, the more fuller it becomes and stuff. But it was so surreal, especially when we were warming up and stuff, and then when you turned to run back across the pitch, there was no one there. So it was mad, and it was so hot as well. Such a hot.
Well, I was. I think I remember being towards the corner flag, but I was in the goal that Chippenham were attacking in the first half. I was sort of over towards the right-hand side of the pitch as we were looking. They're really quite high up as well, so a good view for. What would I have been, 11? But there was a bloke came and sat in front of me with about 5 minutes to go to kick off, and he was about 6'9". So I spent most of it trying to look around him,
There's another 70,000 seats in the stadium, so you probably
why didn't you move? It's a bit more annoying that this person came and sat in front of you instead of one of those.
Well, there we are.
I was also there for the semi-final, I should say. I assume it was the semi-final, but I was at Hyde Hewish Park for one of the matches beforehand. It must be the semi-final. I mean, I'm not going to claim to be anything other than a plastic fan. Me and my family got involved, as the closer it got to the final. So it must have been the semi. But yeah.
We are here to talk about the FA Vase run. As we alluded to just now, though, you had a storied career before and after that run. But can you just talk us through, to start with, how you came to sign on for Chippenham? And, of course, one of the most notable characters in the local game at that time, manager Tom Saunders.
Yeah, I mean, I think for coming from Bath, only Tom, I guess you guys knew him from Caution and stuff. And he's always a little bit larger than life. Whenever I bumped into him, it was always kind of, it can't come and play for me, and always sort of ribbed him that he could never afford me and stuff, because I think when I was at Porton, prior to going to the Chippenham, they were paying me an absolute fortune, especially for the Western League, and I'd had sort of a few opportunities to go to like Tiverton and places like that where they'd offered me a lot of money, and I kind of renegotiated my contract at Portland and stuff. And then the guy that was manager at Portland at the time, a guy called John Goss, who was a good guy. I played with him at the county as well, so Gossy loved me. I went to Portland and was captain there, and offered me a lot of money to go. So it was great, and it wasn't about money really. But when he left in the summer, there's a couple of new managers coming, Greg Taylor and Stuart Minor, and we didn't really kind of see eye to eye, and they needed to sort of cut the budget a little bit, as they'd said to me, and I said, well, I'm on a contract, so tough. So there was that little bit of niggle there, and we played away at Cheltenham Town in the FA Cup, and it was a big day for Portland. I worked hard, and probably one of the best games I ever had up there. I was marking a couple of guys that had already sort of scored sort of 50, 60 goals that season, and I kind of marked them out of the game really. I think that was the season that they got promoted to the Football League. So it was 0-0 at half time, and when you're having a really good game, and we come out second half, and Mike Godwin, so Goddard was playing for Portland at the time, and I think he might have been left back or right back or something. I think we were sort of struggling, but he was always a good up and downer and stuff. And he gave away a penalty literally first minute of the second half, and then it was 1-0 all the way through to about 15 minutes to go, and Greg Taylor and Stuart Minor took me off, which I couldn't quite believe. I'd had the game of my life. We ended up losing 5-0, so they scored another 4 goals after I came off. So,
oh man!
And it was one of those really where I was really disappointed. My ex-father-in-law was stood in the bar waiting to be served, and Stu Minor was stood next to him, and Steve Cottrell came in, who was the manager at Cheltenham at the time, and he said, "Why did you take your captain off? I can't really understand it. He's having a fantastic game. He'd have both our centre forwards in his pocket. You take him off and we score 5." And Stu turned around and said, well, he's on a few more money. We need to knock him down a few notches and stuff. We're trying to ease him out the back door. And there's a few things that we need to try just to get him out the door, basically. Of course, my father-in-law heard all of this at the time. Like he told me. So I kind of guessed the writing was on the wall. I went in sort of a little bit disgruntled in training in the week. And a few guys had sort of mentioned that Tom had taken over at Chippenham, and as it happens, Tom phones me out the blue. So word had got around a little bit, I guess. Phoned me up, said, "Come and meet me and Malcolm up at Chippenham." I know a lot of the guys had left Chippenham at the time because the manager previously had left, and it was a little bit of a cloud around it a little bit. So we never had much of a squad, and he didn't really offer me any money to go up either. So I went and seen, Malcolm, and he said, "Look, we're going to build a team around you. We've got the likes of Charlie Griffin, we've got Paul Steele and a few younger lads, and bringing somebody in of your age and experience would be fantastic. We're going to do things. We're going to get promoted out of this league. We're going to have a good run in the cups and stuff like this. Come up." I always remember, I always liked coming and playing at Chippenham. I always had a lot of grief off of Danielle Swan, obviously their family, and whenever I played, they'd always give me a little bit of grief behind the goals. So for me, sort of coming up, it was a no-brainer really. I quite liked the challenge then. I was kind of, I think, probably heading towards 30. So coming to Chippenham for me then was quite exciting. We had the bare bones of a squad, and we managed to hook up by crook, do pretty well the end of that season, and then obviously the next season, lots of different things happening. You sort of seen players coming in from here, there, and everywhere, and Mal had backed Tommy, and some great players coming in. I'd sort of nicked a few from Portland as well, so the likes of Scorch, and obviously Dobbs came over, and there's a few sort of players coming in from there, here, there, and everywhere, like Lee James, and obviously the likes of Tweeds and Woodsy and Brainer had come across from Colne. So all of a sudden you could see the nucleus of that side building. And the following season, I think we've done really well. But towards the end of that season, you could sort of see it really building, and you know, where we were short of various players, they sort of came in the following season. You know, so we didn't really had anyone to put the ball in the back of the net. We had the likes of Tony Bennett come over, obviously Tweeds and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, we were a force. We were a decent side. You know, the likes of Mangotsfield and teams like that were pretty decent in the league. You know, we were beating these teams. You know, going down to like Devon and Biddeford and places like that. You know, we were getting results. So it was great. And I, you know, obviously being captain and Tom having the faith in me, and you know, we've done a lot of work around that building process. And that's how it sort of came around, really.
So the FA Vase run all started with the 3-1 away win at Wimborne Town on Saturday, 23rd of October, 99. And you sort of slightly alluded to this in passing in what you were saying there. But from the start, was it a competition that Tom had identified as one that he wanted the team to seriously compete in?
Yeah, Tom and I had gone to Wembley the season before to watch Tiverton in the final. You know, we were sat in that stand green with envy. You know, there's Tiverton kind of playing at Wembley. It was like, oh my God, this is just the ultimate dream. And I think, you know, when I was at Portland, we had a good Vase run. I think we got to the last 32, and you know, those kind of distant thoughts of playing at Wembley were just a dream away, really. And we played. I'm trying to think who was it. We played in the FA Cup, and I really kind of thought then that, you know, we're a decent side here. We could have a real good run in the cups and stuff. I'm trying to think where we ended up playing. I think we drew 2 at home with Worthing, and we had to go down there in midweek in the FA Cup. And we had a hell of a side. We were all winners. We were all driven. We were all focused. The likes of Shane Andrews and Murph was there then. And we got Jonah in, and there's a decent keeper, and just a few of those little sort of weak areas of the team were being built. And the story with Wimborne, basically, we've gone down there, and I'm chatting to one of the lads. I'm trying to think what his name is now. A guy called Steve, who used to play for the Vise.
Steve Campbell.
Steve Campbell, well done. So me and Steve Campbell was having a little mess around in the changing rooms, and Tom's turned around and he went, "Burnsy, sit down, shut up. You won't be messing around in the change rooms when we're playing at Wembley, will you?" And we all went, "Yeah, all right then." Even from that very first round of the Vase, you know, he had his sights set on that, you know. I mean, Wimborne away, they got through to the Vase final, you know, not too many years prior to that. And it's a difficult place to go and get a result. I always find it a difficult place, but that day, 3-1 could have easily been sort of 4 or 5. Great start, great sort of first victory on the road. I can't really remember too much about the game. But, yeah, no, I remember it. We coming away from there with a great victory.
Brilliant. So then the run sort of continues and escalates. So you take on Swindon Supermarine, Northwood, Glossop North End, and my dad still says that Glossop is the worst ground he's ever been to, and Wroxham. So there's those 4 games, which then pitches Chippenham into sort of uncharted territory, really. So all of a sudden we're in the quarter-final of the Vase.
Yeah.
And it's a home tie against Bedlington Terriers. Now, they're obviously a team, Northumberland team, and they've reached the final the previous season. They've also knocked Colchester United out of the FA Cup not too previously either. It went to a replay, so the first game was a draw at Hardnewish Park. And both yourself and Toby Jackson both got sent off in that home draw as well. So it's no mean feat that we managed to then get a draw and go up there and win. So what can you recall about that quarter-final?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, obviously, I watched them in the final against Tiverton the year before.
Of course.
I knew they were decent, and the 2 guys up front for them were, you know, they were good players. So I knew that, you know, obviously on that day, quarterfinals at home, great opportunity. We already knew that it was going to be a real tough game, and I think really from about Wroxham, to be fair, we were underdogs all the way through. So, you know, obviously playing Bedlington, was that a good draw for us? Actually, you know, them travelling down from so far up north to our place, it was going to be difficult. But I thought we handled them pretty well. They took a couple of chances in the game. We took our chances as well, but I think the 2 chances that they took really were opportunists, and just the quality of their strikers kind of got them that draw. I mean, the sending off, I remember it quite well actually. The winger had come running into challenge, and I just cut inside, flipped the ball around him, and as he sat up, I've just kicked him straight in the face. Volleyed him straight in the face, and he's crying like a baby on the floor. So the ref kind of come over, and I was like, look, I've just tried to hurdle him. I've got size 12 feet. You know, what am I supposed to do? Do you know what I mean? And get off. And that was it. But we must have had somebody, I know I shouldn't really be saying this on there, but we must have had somebody on the inside of the Wilts FA, because I got sent off 3 times that season, and I wasn't banned at all. So obviously, I could have been banned for a lot of those games, but kind of got brushed under the carpet somehow. The following season, I got like a 56-day ban, so it caught up with me in the end. Not for the Vase run. So lucky, I guess, with 2 players sent off to get that draw, and then up to Bedlington the following week with a great support. I must say that the support travelling out there was unbelievable, because I think it's about a 7-hour coach journey. Although my wife did fly up with Malcolm on a plane, so 45 minutes. Well, we were all of us and the supporters were on this coach, but the win up there was brilliant. They kind of rested a couple of players apparently for the semi-final the week after, and all Tom said to us in the change room was, "Listen, guys, they're resting for the semi-finals next week. You know, what do you think about that? You know, and you come out, it's a horrible little ground. You know, there's a little bit of a cage coming out the ground, out the changing rooms, and I'm thinking, why have they got a cage? You soon realise when you're kind of getting pelted with, you know, fruit and coins and stuff. It was only about 1 pence or 2 pence that were hitting the back of the head, but you know, there's no shrapnel, no silverware. But from our point of view, you know, I remember, you know, that we took our goals well. We defended resolute. You know, we never really gave them a sniff in that game, and we came away with a 2-0 win. And afterwards was fantastic. We stopped at Leeds on the way down afterwards, and had a party on the way down. It was just such a great night for us to get that victory out there. It really was. And one of my memories of it is obviously Les Weir with his Elvis mask on, and you know, he really did keep us entertained. And when we stayed away at different places, Les he'd always sort out, you know, decent hotels for us as well. So I think he was in with like a hotel group or something. And I always used to room with Godders, and Godders would never let me unpack my bag. He would say, right, sit on the bed there, I'll be back in 10 minutes. Come back. He said, oh, we've been upgraded. I said, what do you mean you've been upgraded? Like, you never tell me a secret. To some really good rooms. I think the Glossop game, we were staying in this hotel in Manchester. We got this room. I'm not kidding you. We were sat in this we had this little sauna, like a little spa in our room with a 50-inch TV behind it. And we were sat in this spa, me and Godders, watching Sky Sports. It was amazing. And the coach was leaving. Like, Tom was knocking on the door. We couldn't hear. The spa was going. Was ringing. You had to get the manager to let him in the room to come and tell us to go, because we were just having such a good time in this spa. It was great.
It might still be there now if they hadn't gone on quite.
Yeah, we probably would have been. Yeah, it was a great roomie, I must say.
Brilliant. Well, for those of you who haven't experienced Les Weir out there, we will put up a link to the Road to Wembley video when the pod comes out, and you'll be able to experience him for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as you said Elvis costume, I knew who you were talking about. So yeah, victory in the quarters, and that led you into the semi-finals, which saw Chippenham face Vauxhall Motors, who I noticed at least the first leg were wearing, their kit was basically England's '98 Umbro kit, wasn't it?
That's a great spot. Yes, it was. Yeah,
they just changed the sponsor to Vauxhall, obviously.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So yeah, you're facing Vauxhall Motors in the semis, and after 180 minutes of football in both legs, the score was 0-0. And then in extra time, Mark Cutler, on as a sub, scored the famous goal, which took Chippenham to Wembley.
Mark Cutler, estate agent, don't hold that against me though, and centre forward.
Mark Cutler, Cats, has a book of stories and excuses why he misses training a lot. He's always late to games, hence the reason why he's put on a little bit of weight. But he's the best dressed man and best looking man at the club. and I would personally like to thank him for fulfilling my dream of scoring that goal that got us to Wembley.
Chippenham Town on the attack. John Woods charged it down into the box, laid it off. Cutler, no! Cutler! 13 and a half minutes played in extra time. Rob Cutler has put Chippenham Town.
I remember it quite well. My mum's got it on video, so she puts it on every time I go up there. Boys had worked really, really hard, and it was just perfect for me coming off the bench. Really, there was a few gaps opening up in their defence. Great run from Johnny Woods, and we got a lucky ricochet. And I just, like I said at the time, I just hit it as hard as I could, and fortunately for me, it went in, and for Chippenham, it went in. So.
What was it like in that extra period, like both before and after that goal went in?
It felt like no one was going to score really, and it was just going to be by that old goal. And I remember, obviously, we were kicking down the slope, so going 1-0 up, the place erupted. There was a banner behind the goal saying "Welcome to Hell." Do you know what I mean? And up at Vauxhall, I think we outnumbered their supporters up there, so we know. I mean, I think they hadn't been going that long, and as a club, so they never really had a massive following. Obviously, once we'd scored and turned around, the second half, the 15-minute second half, just seemed to go on forever. And I remember chatting to Shane Andrews about this. My emotions had sort of taken over a little bit. My legs had turned lead. There's no way a mere mortal like me would ever get to play at Wembley. It's not going to happen. They're going to equalise. We're going to lose on penalties, and we've come so close, but we're never going to make it to Wembley. That sort of thought process was driving me on. I was crying. I couldn't breathe. It was the emotion of it all was just absolutely, it was staggering. So that sort of 15 minutes seemed to go on for about another 45 minutes. It just felt like it was never ending. All we could do was just clear our lines, keep defending, looking for an out ball, and hoping that, the likes of Tweeds or Browner would take it up into the corner and give us a little bit of a respite. But obviously they checked the kitchen sink it trying to get that equaliser, and the final whistle, was bedlam. It was crazy. And I remember sort of coming off, and my mum and my uncle, my sister, and obviously Danny, quite well. Mm-hmm. Were there, and so I was kind of looking for them in the crowd, and then that sort of reality of that sort of little bit of famous for 5 minutes, kind of, it was mad. I was Ian Longdon was trying to interview me on the radio. I had the guy from HTV there once to interview. I got man of the match as well, so I was being presented with that. I could hear all the lads in the changing rooms. I just wanted to be in there with them, and so I was being carried off the pitch as well. There's a real sort of iconic picture of me being carried off the pitch, and for me, it was things that you'd never dream about. It was never something that would happen to this Lee Burns Western League player who was like 33 or whatever it was, and I really did try and sort of take in all of that emotion and those feelings. It was just absolutely an incredible, probably about 20-minute period of being interviewed and trying to stay straight, and then finally getting in to see the boys, and everyone's crying, and that it was incredible. It was probably the most emotional I've ever been. It was massive. It was a massive thing for the club, for the supporters, and it really put us on the map. The semi-final. I think we had about 3,500-4,000 at home, maybe. So yeah, it was fantastic.
So is that the semi-final that you were at that as well, Alex? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it must have been. Yeah.
Cool. So I was one of the pitch invaders at the end, and I remember ending up with Shane Andrews in the melee, and he sort of grabbed me and was kissing me and all this sort of thing. Such a great day, definitely. From that semi-final then, which took place on Saturday the 25th of March 2000. Yeah. And I've got a program here featuring a handsome cover model from the time for my research. So I'm just going to read out the fixtures, or the dates of the fixtures between the semi-final and the final. From the 1st of April, we go Saturday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. And then we get to the final. That's 12 games in the month of April alone, which is a game every 2 to 3 days. And what I'm interested in is, How did you manage such a schedule like that, balancing between, obviously you're a working man as well, so you're balancing between work, home life and football. You're trying not to get injured or suspended, although it doesn't sound like there was much chance of you getting suspended. And also having to deal with the extra attention that reaching the final were generated, because I don't remember there being much in the way of squad rotation, because the team was still obviously fighting on other fronts, fighting for a promotion spot in the league, and had made it to the final, the Les Phillips Cup as well.
Do you know what? It's really mad watching a lot of sort of, watching the Premier now, and you hear players that are tired, or you hear that, that they can't manage, a game at the weekend and in the week, or, they're suffering fatigue and stuff like that. You don't know what fatigue is. For me, I wanted to be there Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday. Do you know what I mean? For me, because of the togetherness of the team as well, really, the enjoyment factor was being at football for me. And a little bit of a torrid time at home as well, funny enough. But so football was a real outlet for me to express myself and enjoy it, And I think we were quite lucky in the respect that I think we probably had a squad of about 17, 18. So we could, the likes of Nick Beaverstock and Darren Hobbs and players like that we'd signed, Richard Bourne as well. So we'd had, like Toby as well, Toby Jackson. So we had a decent squad that would play and obviously just try and keep that kind of momentum going, really, because we were, fighting on all fronts. I did, funny enough, the week before the final, I did actually get injured. So I once went ahead down at Barnstable. The guides backed into me. And as I've gone over the back, I've twisted my pelvis, but I thought I'd ripped my groin. So you imagine this then, the biggest game of my life. I'm injured. One of my dear friends, Matt Carr, his dad's a doctor, David, and so I've gone in to see him. I said, look, David, you have to give me an injection. I've got to get through, And he just said to me, let me have a look. So he said, it looks like you've twisted your pelvis. Get in and see this guy called Wayne Rhodes, who was a chiropractor. I've seen him on the Wednesday night. He snapped me back into place. He said, don't drive your car home. Walk home, because if you drive your car, it'll probably slip back in. So I walked 3 miles home. And on the Tuesday night before the final, if you can remember, we had Sky Sports at the training, so they were filming, and I could see myself. I could hardly run. Luckily, Sky was there, because if Tom or Nobby had put us through a bit of a session, I wasn't going to be able to do it, So we were just going through the motions for the camera and stuff like that, which was nice. I seen this Wayne Rhodes on the Wednesday night. He snapped me back into place. Thursday went into training, felt good. Friday, obviously, we travelled up to London. Yeah, so luckily for me, touch wood, I could play. Do you know what I mean? But it was touch and go for a lot of us. I think I count my lucky stars that I wanted to see David Carr that day, because I didn't. I'd have been struggling.
Thank you, David Carr and Sky Sports. So to ask the next question, I need to actually go back to a game which took place the previous season, and I'm sure you'll remember this. It's a home match against Chippenham Town, and it was won by Chippenham 4-3 in awful conditions. But before half-time, the Chippenham goalkeeper, who was John Haynes at the time, was stretchered off with an injury. What do you remember about what happened next in that game?
Well, listen, I've played in lots of different positions. I'm a centre forward by trade, although everyone will disagree with that. But lots of goals. The only reason I'm a centre half because I never lost a header for 14 years. I've got Pat Jennings' hands, so Tom said he wants to go in goal. So I'm like looking around. I think I said stick me in goal. We had somebody that can come on at centre half. Tiverton was flying as well. And I just had this feeling. I was chatting to Martin Rogers afterwards, and he said, as soon as you went in goal, I knew we wouldn't get a victory today. Everything I was coming for. John Haynes was a decent shot stopper, but you couldn't get him to come off his line and take a catch. So I think really, I do jest about not losing a header for 14 years, by the way. There was one or two, but I went in goal, and I quite enjoy going in goal. I was always thinking, when I retire, maybe I'll go in goal.
The question that arises from that is that when you get to Wembley, Tommy and Nobby Bush, his assistant, they decide to start the Vase final with 5 outfield players on the bench. So they've left out the reserve goalkeeper Ian Harris from the squad altogether. So if anything had happened to Ian Jones, who was the first choice, would we have seen you back in the sticks? Was there a plan?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't actually. And the funny thing is, I mean, obviously they had a few decisions to make. Obviously Tom and Nobby around squad selection for the game, and obviously I think what they really done was sort of stay true to the players that had been there for a while, and like Nick Tiley and Goddard and the other guys like Nick Beaverstock and stuff. So there wasn't really a slot for Chopper because he'd not played for us all season. I don't think he'd actually put the gloves on for one game. So and he's a great character as well. So it's nice to have it's nice to have Chopper around as well because he was really experienced and he's a good lad to have, be social with as well. But I think it would take a hell of a lot for Jonah to get injured. I think you could hit him with a bit of 4v2 and he'd still get up and stuff. But he took a lot of punishment that season, definitely. It wasn't in the plan, but I do see where you're coming from.
So yeah, how did the players who were left out of the squad, so Toby Jackson, Ian Harris, and in particular Richard Bourne, who started the home leg of the semi-final, how did they react? How did they react to the news when they were informed that they wouldn't be part of the team on the day? And as captain, were you ever part of the team selection process?
No. I even had to go to the room to speak to Tommy and Nobby for them to tell me that I was actually playing. So that was the thing, really. I was nervous. I was nervous even going to find out whether I was playing, to be fair. I shouldn't have been really, I guess, because I sort of played most of the season. I know Toby took it really bad, and I think it kind of finished his playing days, to be fair. He never really recovered from disappointment. I know that he'd lost in the semi-final of the Vase when he played for Trowbridge, so he'd had that disappointment, and to get to the final and not even make the squad was devastating. It was devastating for him and Borney. It was very difficult for them, difficult for us, and to have that conversation and try and put your arm around them and stuff like that. Because what can you say? It's the biggest day of any non-league players' playing days, and to be told that you're not playing or in the squad. And I think with both of them, really, they both could have made a difference on the day. Do you know what I mean? So it was such a tough decision for Tom and Nobby to make that. I do kind of really, I still, even now, kind of really feel for those guys not to have made the squad. Definitely.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But I guess that's football, whatever level it is at, isn't it? Some people have got to be left out and can't have a team of 13 or 14 players, can you? So.
I think really that's why I guess now there are bigger squads and you can choose various people to come off the bench and it does save a lot of hassle. But obviously Tobes and Richard Bourne were both really good players as well. So I felt I was devastated for them, but at the end of the day, you have to park that and move on and just sort of push on to the game. Do you know what I mean? So. We couldn't really sort of hang on it for too long.
Okay, so speaking of the game, it's 5-3. You're leading the team out alongside the Deal Town captain for one of the last ever cup finals to take place at the old Wembley Stadium. Can you sum up how that felt, and have you ever experienced anything like it since?
It's surreal. We've got the home changing rooms. When we went to have a little look around on the Friday, all the England team shirts are out. Beckham, Scholes, Gerrard. And you can't really sort of put into words what that was like. And to be captain as well it's a dream. It's an absolute dream come true. So. The FA are a little bit anal. They sort of say, right, at this time you've got to be ready to come out. This time you've got to be out in the tunnel. We then go out to this. You then line up and they give you a little bit of a running order of what to do. Do you know what I mean? And coming out to the noise and the heat and the adrenaline, it was incredible. It was an absolute. You just really can't. Words just doesn't describe the when I was growing up, you always, the FA Cup finals, for instance, you know what I mean? It was the whole day, wasn't it? You wake up and it'd be the road to Wembley, and you'd watch different clips from this. And you go to the players' hotel and stuff. Well, this was happening to us. Even at the hotel with, the likes of like Mickey Godwin sort of came down with his suit on, he had like a coat hanger in the back of his coat to make it took the edge off of everything, and me and Murph had chose these suits that were all black suits, black shirts, black ties, and it was like 100 degrees on the pitch. So we got out to sort of have a look, and it was so hot. But to walk out, finally with your kit on and that, this was what we'd been sort of preparing for 6 or 7 weeks, and it arrived. So it's an incredible thing.
I've got a little story I can tell here, because I don't know who the mascot was who came out with you that day, but it should have been me, and I'll tell you why. So, me and my dad were following Chippenham sort of home and away by this point, and I used to like to hang around by the dugout because obviously I knew Nobby and I knew Steve Lodge, the physio, and I liked to chat to them and all that sort of thing. And I can't remember where it was, but it was definitely an away game. I must have been getting a bit too much. The game was tense, wasn't going quite right. I don't know, because all of a sudden Tommy just turned around and said, "Stuart, fuck off." So I did. And then the next week we were playing at home, and I was watching the team warm up, and he came over to me and he said, "I'm really sorry about that. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. When we get to Wembley, you will be the mascot." And I think in the end it was decided. I think there was a newspaper competition maybe in the Gazette to decide it.
I'll tell you what I think it was. I think it was a relation of Pete behind the bar. I got a feeling
right, okay.
His nephew or somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
But funny thing is, he messaged me, or he I don't know whether, or it might have been on something like Twitter or Facebook or something. He sent me a photo of him now, you know what I mean? I think he's got like 3 kids and like this, you know what I mean? He just is sort of got no interest in football or anything like that, so probably meant the world to you, do you know what I mean? He got the nod. I would have voted for you though, Stu.
Oh, thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. So obviously we've rewatched the match highlights on YouTube. A game of few clear-cut chances for either team, really neither side wanted to give an inch. Although obviously Dave Godley in the first half and Steve Brown in the second both missed chances, which would have put Chippenham in front. Then, of course, with 3 minutes to go, a name we'll never forget, Rowley scores that fabulous volley to win it for Deal Town. Yeah. With that 3 minutes or 4 minutes left to go, were you thinking about extra time at that point? And what were the last few minutes of the game like as you tried to force an equaliser? Because I didn't remember this, but you actually went up front for a couple of minutes, didn't you, to try to help out the attack?
We've done that before, we've done that. Like I said, I'm a natural goal scorer. So funny thing is, I was chatting to Steve Marshall, who obviously played for Deal. Good lad. And I remember going to watch Deal with Tom, actually. So there was obviously the only guys that I really thought were decent was obviously Terry Martin, obviously their captain, was solid at the back, Rowley Graham and Steve Marshall. And I'm on Twitter with Steve Marshall, and he messaged me to say, "Did you ever think about bringing me down or kicking me or hurting me, or you know what I mean, to stop me getting past you?" Because he kind of dropped his shoulder, went past me. But I never had any thoughts about that, because I think we were so solid as a unit, like Shane and Murph and stuff like that. Usually, if anybody went by me in that sort of area of the pitch, somebody else picked them up and got a tackle in. So I didn't, for me, it wasn't about sort of bringing them down. But I just remember kind of looking over, and Rowley Graham's just the most incredible shot to beat Jonah. And I kind of felt that they'd been coming on a little bit strong, actually. They made a couple of substitutions. They brought a big guy up front who was a bit of a handful and stuff. And they had a little bit more possession, and it was kind of heading that way. We really needed to have freshened it up. And I think Tommy was waiting for kind of extra time to maybe have a look at that. And then they scored, and Wembley's, you know what I mean? It's one of those things really where all you do is look up and there's the clock. You could see that there was only sort of 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, no, it breaks your heart, really, doesn't it? I remember Ian Longden's commentary on it as well. He was almost in tears. So.
Well, the Chippenham Town move has broken down, and now Marshall can bring it forward for Dill on the right-hand side. He's gone past Burns, he plays it in, James misses it. Oh, I don't believe it, Dill have taken the lead with only 3 minutes on the clock. It was an absolutely cracking finish. Steve Marshall did the work down the right-hand side. The goal scorer's shirt has now come off. He's looking towards the fans. It's a mass of black and white, all celebrating that goal. Deal Town have possibly broken the hearts of all the Chippenham Town supporters with just 3 minutes to go. A shot on the volley beat Ian Jones and into the back of the net. Surely not. No, not at this late stage. Surely Deal Town can't have got the goal which will win the game. The shirt was taken off, can't see the number. Frankly, I couldn't care less who scored.
Yeah, no, it drains you a little bit, that 3 minutes whereas the semi-final, it sort of seemed to be a little bit elongated, the time. Those 3 minutes just passed in a heartbeat,
Yeah, God, I can't imagine. Just, heartbreaking for it to be that late as well.
Yeah.
So given the result, it's disappointing, but given that, were you surprised at all by the turnout for the team's homecoming parade the next day, when thousands of Chippenham supporters lined the streets of Chippenham Town Centre to welcome you home? Well,
the funny thing is, I remember the hotel that we'd stayed in was brilliant. We had a good night, had a bit of a sing-song. I guess you maybe have seen that on the video, because I came down to the bar and Les Weir and I were just sinking double Jack Daniels and Coke for about an hour, and then there's a lady playing on the piano and she started playing Angels, and I said, Les, I know this one, I'm going to get up and sing. There must have been like 400 people in the room, so he stopped her and said, my skipper wants to sing. And we were being followed by a guy called Ian Williams, who was one of Les's mates. I think he worked for HTV or something like that. So, of course, he's recorded everything. There's nothing was not recorded. So, at this point, I'm absolutely plastered on Jack Daniels and singing in front of 400 people. So we were just trying to lighten the mood a little bit. And that sort of continued. Les and I, Darren Hobbs joined us, and we finished drinking probably about 6:30 in the morning. So I'd literally got back to the room, had a shower, got changed, come out, got on the coach to come back to Chippenham. So as you can imagine, getting back to Chippenham, I was hanging out of my ass. And then we end up, I think it's at one of the supermarkets where the bus was. And, so we're all on this open top bus, making our way through Chippenham. There's about 6 people waving at us from the street, or there's people thinking, who are those guys? Do you know what I mean? And then as we've sort of come around under the railway into Chippenham, it was like, oh my God, marching bands. There must have been 10,000 people. Do you think? I don't know. What sort of figure would you put on that? It was incredible.
Definitely in the thousands. Definitely in the thousands.
Oh, yeah. Just imagine what it would have been like if we'd won. So for me it was magical, really, and it was lovely. I remember like Shane and I and Jamer and stuff, and Murph and Scorch and that, we always used to go for a couple of drinks into Chippenham and stuff, and you couldn't buy a drink. People used to stop and have a chat and stuff like that, and obviously that homecoming was amazing. It was going into the town hall and stuff like that, having a chat with the mayor, when I'm sort of probably, the fumes coming from my alcoholic breath was probably curling her hair. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really know too much about what I said.
Well, I do remember you stopping to shake my hand while you were walking up, and about 15 minutes later I came round. So that'll be.
But the funny thing is, actually, talk about going for a drink in Chippenham when we couldn't buy a drink. About 3 months later, we were in Chippenham. Nobody recognised us.
Do you still have all your kit from the day? Presumably that was a one-off kit that the players were allowed to keep if you got the boots. And I'm particularly interested in the captain's armband.
Dan had the captain's armband. I've got the medal. I've got my shirt. My wife framed for me on my 40th birthday. We then moved house. It got put in the shed, and it's still in the shed now. The glass is broken, so I've had to clear all the glass off. I don't really know what to do with it really, because my wife's very minimalistic. She like clutter on the walls and stuff. We've not got a very big house, so it's in my shed. I'm open to suggestions if anybody wants to recuperate it and take it out of there. It's probably got a few cobwebs on it and stuff. If they want to put it somewhere, I'm more than happy to maybe look to donate it or whatever. I don't know, but maybe that's something that the pod can.
Yeah, there you go. The power of the pod. Yeah, right in.
Yeah.
With the captain's armband, I just have to say, so I wasn't able to affect a gamer's mascot, but I was able to affect it in a small way because I bought that captain's armband.
Okay.
Yeah, I found it in a shop. I must have been out shopping with my parents, and they had these blue and white captain's armbands, and we bought two. And my dad gave one to Nobby, who he obviously worked with, still does, for the final. And then my dad actually wore the other one on the day. And I had no idea until the pictures had been printed in the paper the following week. I had no idea that you'd actually worn it.
He came and gave it to me actually, and we had a little bit of a. The strangest thing for me was, having a shirt with Burns 5 on the back and going through and seeing guys that had actually bought Burns 5 shirts in the stands, and obviously Dan had one, and seeing other people with that, it was like, really? It's crazy. Do you know what I mean? It just kind of, it didn't resonate, the enormity of what it kind of meant to a lot of these kids and stuff, But yeah, no, I mean, we had that a little bit of a, Nobby come and presented that to me. So that really sticks in my mind. And we had a little bit of a prayer before the game and stuff like that. We had one of the doctors read out a piece that Nobby had found. And it's all about winning and having that desire to win and stuff like that. But we never really needed that. We never really needed any sort of outsiders or any sort of encouragement, because we already had that fire in our bellies and that anger and that desire and that real want to go and win. Do you know what I mean? And that was all the way through the reigns. Like I said, like we were underdogs for most of the reigns, but the final was so surreal. Playing on the pitch seemed to bypass pretty quick. The first half just kind of flew by really, and you just wanted to play your game of football. But because of the occasion, you didn't try anything special. You didn't want to mess up, to be fair. So it was all about making sure that things went right. But I think Dan still got the captain's arm. Yeah, that's a really good story actually.
Fantastic. I'm glad it's still about. And like I say, I was so thrilled. I remember seeing it in the paper with it on your arm, and I was so thrilled that it had actually been used. And I thought that's my little piece of it down there on the pitch. So that does mean a lot.
Have you still got much memorabilia from back in the day, or?
So I still have. Well, I've got the. I showed you the program earlier. So I've got the. Yeah. I've got the FA Vase Cup final program here with. I don't know if you can see that's all signed down the team sheet as well. I do still have my final shirt. It doesn't fit anymore, obviously. It does have Wood 6 on the back though, I'm afraid.
That's fair.
My dad still has a lot of programs and stuff plugged away in a cupboard, which I like to look at occasionally. So yeah, there's still a lot of it about, definitely.
Yes, man. I mean, I've got a couple of folders really of newspaper clippings and stuff. I should really organise it a little bit better. But I've got. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, I just retired playing last year at 55, so I've got stuff right up until playing for the Caution Vets last season. Do you know what I mean? When we the league and stuff like that. So lots of great memories and stuff. And it's nice to sort of go back over that sort of Chippenham time. I could talk about it. I do get people say to me, "Oh, here we go, he's chatting about Wembley again." A lot of that's kind of jealousy, really. I think.
I think so.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing you got to talk about for the rest of your life, really, isn't it? I mean, playing at Wembley.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think like the Sunday team I played for, we'd always have new guys coming in and playing and stuff. They didn't know who I was, and I'd have to kind of prove myself again. Do you know what I mean? Even though I was in my 50s and stuff, like they who's this old guy turning up? What's his guy? Is he the physio? What is he? I'm now is he playing for us? Do you know what I mean? I probably played with their granddads or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, Lee, you listen to the pod, so you know that we ask this question to everyone who comes on, and that is, what thing from the 90s would you most like to bring back?
What thing from the 90s would I like to bring back?
Yeah.
Do you know, I've been thinking about this. Very difficult for me to remember the 90s. It's just these things really were. I was more of an 80s guy. I know I shouldn't be saying that, Tom, but
that's it.
Yeah,
Cancel the pod immediately.
Yeah. So the 90s. Do you know what it would be? Is being back in that changing room in Chippenham and being with the guys again and stuff. We often get together a lot. I think material things is always very difficult to kind of say, really. Maybe my Puma Keaton boots and stuff, do you know what I mean, from the 90s. They were my life and soul. I'd clean them twice a week, regardless. But if I could bring anything back from the 90s, it would be, being with my friends and my colleagues from Chippenham days. Certainly.
Just before we finish, so you are getting the chance to get back to Chippenham with a few of the FA Vase squad at the end of next month.
That's right.
Because it's been announced in the last few days that you'll be returning to Hardnewich Park alongside, as I said, several of the members of the Vase squad for a special match between a Chippenham Town Legends team and a Manchester United Legends team. But you're leading the team from the dugout as opposed to the back line on this occasion.
Yeah, I had ankle surgery last year. Do you know what? I'd love to put my kit on again for one final run out on Chippenham, and I have mentioned that to Gary Organ, who's obviously been arranging this, and he said, well, why don't you just come over and manage the team then? Which I thought was a great bit of respect and a great sort of honour for me to be able to do that. On the flip side to that, I have played for Manchester United Legends as well when we played at Melksham. So that was a great occasion as well, just to put the United kit on, because I'm a Man United fan as well. So to be able to manage Chippenham against the Man United Legends is another great thing that I'll probably remember for the lifetime. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, seeing the boys again.
Brilliant. Well, that game, if anybody out there in Podland is interested, that's on Sunday, the 27th of March, and tickets are available from the Chippenham Town website. Lee, it's been absolutely fantastic to speak to you tonight and go through the Vase run again. You are now, as you were then, a legend. And thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
No, I enjoyed it. Thanks, and good luck with the pod. And it's nice to be a friend of the pod.
You're a legend of the pod. You're more than a friend. You're a legend of the pod, Lee.
Am I the first legend of the pod?
I think so. Be. Get it in the ledger.
Yeah. Get it in the ledger.
Get it in the ledger, Greenie.
Thanks so much to Burnsy for joining us. I mean, what an absolute roller coaster of emotion that was.
Yeah, God, yeah, it was. I was only there for the semi-final, one of the legs of the semi-final and the final, obviously. But despite missing most of that season, you can still feel the nostalgia sort of seeping through everything he was saying, and just took me back to sort of summer 2000. And yeah, it was great. Yeah, brilliant.
I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, if you captain a side at Wembley, that's obviously something that can never ever be taken away, and it's something that a lot of people would love to do, and I'm so glad that Burnsy had the chance to do it with Chippenham.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you've got any thoughts on that episode, or you've got any memories about that Chippenham Town run, or any other grassroots football memories, or if you're a Deal Town player or another Chippenham Town player, then get in touch.
Yeah, we can do a series. We can do a series of different viewpoints. If you were the ref, if you're listening, let us know. Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can do that in the usual places. We're on Twitter at allright90s. You can email us allright90s@gmail.com. or facebook.com/allright90s. It's all letters, no numbers. And we're also on Instagram, and our handle is allright.90s.podcast. And we'd love to hear from you on this topic or any other topic.
As always, please do get in touch. Right, well, I suppose that's about it for this time around, and we'll be back soon to bother you again about another aspect of 90s popular culture. So until then, it's goodbye from me.
Yeah, and it's goodbye from me.
Bye.
Goodbye.